Welcome to Talkin Jets. This is episode 4. I apologize, guys. Had a little bit of technical difficulties with the last stream, but we have fixed it since then. I am joined tonight by Green Bean from the Jet Nation forums, Matt O'Leary and Gangrene David. Boys, how are we doing tonight? Matt, I'll throw to you first.
I'm excited to be on. Let's talk some combine stuff.
I like it. What are you thinking, David?
Got a lot to discuss today. Intriguing draft prospects, got some rumors to address. We got a certain general manager's mind process or media mind games to address. Let's talk some Jets, man.
I like it. Green Bean, how you doing tonight?
Oh, I am psyched. We had some of the largest men in the world running faster than quarterbacks. I can't wait to get into this.
Can't hear them. Hold on. Try talking, guys.
Yo.
Can you guys hear them in the audio now?
Check.
No, 1, 2.
Hold on. There's an echo. Oh, you know what? Hold on. Maybe these are like... All right. Can you hear me?
I got you guys.
You can hear me. Why can
I'm good. I can hear you.
Why are
You guys
you...
sound so good to me.
See? Oh, man. Here we go, boys. All right. Let me just get this, like... I'm not hearing you guys in my, like, headphones, which is kind of concerning. No. Okay. Everyone else can hear you fine, so I'm just pulling out the headphones because there's going to be a little bit of an echo, but whatever. We'll do it live today. All right. Guys, we have a lot to talk about. We had the NFL Combine this past week. We have a bunch of rumors coming out from the Joe Douglas interview. And, of course, we can talk about our offensive line and wide receiver prospects. First on the docket, I want to get to Tristan Wirfs. Did you guys see some of the stats this guy put up at the Combine? I'll read off some of what was said, or some of what was, like, tested at. It was bananas. Got it right here. So he ran a 4.8540. That is faster than Joey Bosa. He jumped 36.5 inches. That's 3.5 inches higher than Amari Cooper. And he jumped longer than DeAndre Hopkins. He jumped 10.1. Hopkins jumped 9.7. I do want to thank Detonator10 for the $2 donation. You already know I'm ready for this. Let's fucking go. Go Jets. Good stuff. Dude, I appreciate that. So Tristan Wirfs, this is not someone I had initially thought would go in the top 10, but I think after that Combine performance, I think he's probably a lock inside the top 10. Matt, I'll throw it to you first. What do you think?
Yeah, to me, he's my number 2 tackle. I think it goes Wills and then Wirfs right after that. Phenomenal stuff numbers-wise. He's going to go – I don't think he's going to be available when the Jets are picking at 11. I mean, that's just crazy numbers from an offensive lineman. And like you said, and you rattled off, he was jumping further than wide receivers, higher than wide receivers. It's insane. He's a freak athlete.
David, what did you think about the performance?
You know, I thought it was phenomenally shocking. I mean, for an offensive lineman, it's just absolutely ridiculously athletic. And this is a guy who I think who's got a lot of strength. He's got a lot of athletic ability. I wouldn't be surprised if he even goes top 5. This could possibly be the best tackle in the draft class. So it's unfortunate that the Jets might not be able to get him.
Green Bean, what do you think about Wirfs? Do you think it has increased his stock enough where the Jets aren't going to have a shot at him?
Absolutely. You know, before the Combine, I was Andrew Thomas Becton with Wirfs hanging out behind there. And I have to say, there is no doubt in my mind that he's the number 1 tackle. And not only because of jumping 10.1 and the 36.5-inch vertical and all those types of things. His 3-cone was really fast. His pulling drills were incredible. But I listened to 2 of his interviews. One, the Combine interview, but also one on a show, Moving the Change with Pat Kerwin. His interview, I mean, he is just, it's so intelligent and so clear in how he presents himself. And one of the things that he said that really turned me on, man, was they were asking him about his ability to play left because he's been spending more time on the right side. His answer was, it doesn't matter to me which side I play. I can play both sides equally well. And it was just like it was there was an ease about him. And he pointed out that he played actually most of his career at left, and he was later moved to the right side. So he thinks he's going to be switching over to the left side with no issue whatsoever, and that is something that I think is really important. He's going top 5 in my opinion. Giants.
Now, I think that there was for me, I was on the Andrew Thomas train for like the entire season. It's been the guy that has been I feel like the consensus top tackle for the majority of the season until this offseason. And Thomas and Becton are the two guys that have played left tackle in college. I didn't realize that Wirfs played it first and then moved over to right tackle. So that gives me a little more confidence in him. Wills still concerns me a little bit just because he played right tackle. But to be fair, these guys are athletes. They can move to either side of the field. Was there any other offensive lineman that kind of stood out to you guys? I know Thomas didn't do the combine, so we're not going to be able to see his metrics until the pro day for him. But I think I don't know. I think his stock drastically dropped. I don't know if you guys saw Todd McShay's mock draft that he just put out today, but they have Thomas falling all the way down to 29 to the Tennessee Titans. So I was pretty surprised to see that. Do you guys see Thomas falling that far? Is he not the prospect that I thought he was? I guess, Matt, I'll throw it to you first.
Yeah, that would be really surprising if he fell that far. I don't see it personally. I don't think he'll make it past the Jets at 11. I think all 4 tackles are going to be off the board after the Jets pick. So I'd be stunned if he went to 29. I really would.
David, what do you think?
I would 100% agree with that. I mean, this is another intriguing prospect.
Whoa! You guys switched panels. Green Bean, where's your camera? Whoa, Green Bean's in the David's. Everyone's in different spots now. What the hell?
Oh no!
I got Matt in the Green Bean. I got David in the Matt slot, and I got Green Bean in the David's. Whatever.
I don't know what happened.
Forget it. I'm just gonna take the names off for tonight. Boom, names are gone. All right, what were you thinking? I'm sorry to cut you off.
All right. So, I 100% agree, and I mentioned this in my previous video, but oh my god, you look at all 4 of these tackles, whether it's Andrew Thomas, whether it's Tristan Wirfs, whether it's Mekhi Becton, or whether it's Jedrick Willis. Each of these linemen can provide a sort of unique attribute on that football field. Like you have Jedrick Willis, a solid run blocker, Mekhi Becton in his frame, Tristan Wirfs and his athletic ability, Andrew Thomas and his range to block. I mean, these are guys that have very unique attributes. Each have their own kind of unique attribute, and that's why I think the tackle class, at least these top 4 tackles, I think are immensely underrated, and I think we're underrating the tackles a little bit. So I'm on board with Matt. I could see these tackles fall in the top 10, and I think one of them will probably fall to the Jets at 11, and I think we got to take it right there.
So the McShay mock, just so you guys know, there were 3 tackles taken at 8, 9, and 10. So the Steelers and Bills wins kind of kick us in the nuts a little bit if it falls quite like that. I mean, I still would take Thomas. Green Bean, what do you think about Thomas potentially falling all the way to 29? They actually had Jones, the tackle from Houston, go before him, believe it or not. And I think that has to do more with the combine, like him not participating.
There is no way that he's making it past the Jets. I completely agree with Matt. One of the guys that actually stood out to me, and this will emphasize the point, is tackle Trey Adams. Mm-hmm. Now, did you see how poorly his combine was? That shows you the legitimacy of the drop-off from this first batch of tackles to the next batch of tackles. He ran like a 6'4" or something like that. Yeah, he basically walked it. And so, it shows you, like, when you're talking about Wills, Becton, Wirfs, Thomas, even Jones is in there. After those guys, even when you get into Austin Jackson or, like, Trey Adams and stuff, the drop-off, it's a cliff. Now, those guys are thirds and things like that. Maybe Wanagoo might be a second. But there is no way that the Jets are going to let Thomas slip past them when the drop-off for tackles is that significant.
Yeah, I would say when I look at it, I kind of see those 4 tackles at the top. Then I would probably put, was it Austin Jackson, the guy from USC, and Jones, the tackle from Houston. I think that they would be in like that next tier, and then I don't know anyone else after that really. I kind of looked at the centers and the guards more so after that because I figure if you're not picking a tackle in the top round, you're probably not getting a starter. I would kind of think. Was there anyone else that impressed you from the offensive line side of things, or anyone that any more input on the offensive line prospects before we jump into wide receivers?
What was that guy? There's a guy Cleveland. I forget his first name. He had a real good combine. I wasn't too aware of him, and I got into him a little bit. He seems like an impressive prospect, but I think he's probably in the third, fourth round kind of range. But he had a good combine for sure.
I saw him jump up a little bit on mock drafts that I was looking at. Actually, that reminds me, guys, everyone in the chat, if you do want to join the mock draft contest that we have going on, we have first place, second place, third place. It's kind of idiot proof to join it. There's a link in the description down below to do it. So if you want to join the nation and compete with mock drafts, it's only the first round, and it's pretty easy to do. But if you want to do that, join it down below in the description. All right, guys, let's talk about some of the wide receivers. We heard the rumors last week of the Jets possibly being high on Henry Ruggs III. That is the Alabama receiver that is not named Jerry Jeudy. And everyone thought he was going to break the record for it. I think it was a 4.22 by John Ross. He ran a 4.28, so blazing fast. I mean, you're talking 0.06 of a second is like, it's a snap of the fingers. So, in your opinion, David, I'll throw it to you first. Has Ruggs surpassed any of the guys that we were looking at the top end of the draft, like a CeeDee Lamb or a Jerry Jeudy? Where does Ruggs fall right now?
Well, I definitely think the speed definitely boosted Henry Ruggs' draft stock. I think a lot of people talk about his 40-yard dash, especially being that speed is a crucial attribute. Speed is a crucial attribute that you want to have when you're a wide receiver. His draft stock definitely did go up, but however, one thing that questions me about Henry Ruggs is, while you do have that speed, can he muscle up and make that play? Does he have a stellar route tree like CeeDee Lamb and Jerry Jeudy does? So I definitely like the speed that's there, and I definitely think he's got solid hands as well. But however, I want to see if he can be that all-around guy that could possibly muscle up the defender for that ball, or does he have an all-around route tree and he's not a one-trick pony to where he can only run the deep routes? So I want to see more out of Henry Ruggs before I could consider him somebody past like Jerry Jeudy or CeeDee Lamb.
So one thing that I can bring up, he was looked at as kind of a replacement for us losing Robbie Anderson. Obviously, a burner, runs a little bit faster, 0.1 second faster than Robbie in the 40. But he measured out with over 10-inch hands. So that's really good for a wide receiver. Basically got bananas for fingers. It's absolutely a massive hand. And then he has, I don't see... I don't know. I'm sorry. I'll throw it to Green Bean just so you can shed a little bit light of what you were thinking on him.
Well, I think the hype came from Joe Douglas's comment, which is a pretty cool one, by the way. A little soundbite. Speed. What was it?
Yeah, it was. We need.
Speed causes pressure, and pressure bursts pipes.
Yep.
And then there's Ruggs doing that. He said, "Oh, I see what Joe Douglas is really saying there." Mm-hmm. But me personally, I like Ruggs. People were talking about us taking him at 11. If we go wide receiver at 11, that's not the type of receiver that I would want. But I mean, he's an interesting prospect, blazing fast, like you said. Somebody in the chat, Haver, just pointed out that the top 10 fastest wide receivers in combine history all failed at the NFL level. So I'm not sure if that's entirely truthful. It feels right to me. So that's one of those things. When you look at speed purely for speed's sake, yeah, you can't teach it, but they need to have, like David said, they need to have a little bit more going on for them, for me to want to take them. Just like with Robbie, he's expanded his route tree to get away from that one-trick pony kind of a thing, and that's why he's increased his value, I'd say.
Matt, what do you think?
Yeah, I like him a lot as a prospect. I'd probably put him as the third best wide receiver, so I think I'd go Jeudy and Lamb, pretty close to interchangeable, and then Ruggs right after that. I don't want to take him at 11, though. I would only take him if the Jets were trading back, if a team wanted to come up and take, if Herbert's falling and maybe a team wants to grab a quarterback, or trade up for Love, something like that. then maybe I take him if he's available in like the later teens or like the low 20s, I guess. But at 11, I don't think that'd be the smartest move for the Jets.
Yeah, I think 11's too rich for me. I agree that I would move back and possibly target him there. I do think to getting to Green Bean's point about the speed and possibly failing at the NFL level, I think you see that a lot with guys that you don't know necessarily in the college ranks, and then they come and pop off the screen because they're track athletes and they just run, Justin Gatlin, Usain Bolt type speed, and then you get guys like Ruggs and Robbie Anderson, guys who played well in college. I mean, Robbie Anderson obviously is not the caliber that Ruggs is coming out, but I think the tape backs up the speed with Ruggs. I don't know if there's as much concern with him and the speed. I don't know. David? Are you concerned with that kind of knowledge that Green Bean just dropped on us?
Well, I mean, Greavy kind of just, yeah, definitely.
All right. As far as receivers go, was there anyone else that you think that the guys in the chat should be looking at as far as replacements, or maybe if it's not first round? Because we've talked about the Jerry Jeudy, we've talked about the CeeDee Lamb, and we've talked about the. Actually, let's get into it. Todd McShay had the Jets taking Jerry Jeudy at the 11th overall pick. So it was tackle, 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 8, 9, 10. Pass on Andrew Thomas to select Jerry Jeudy. What do you guys think of that? Matt, I'll throw it to you first with Jeudy at 11.
It depends on what you free agency. I know that's a really cop out answer, but like if you brought in Conklin and maybe you could convince me that what's his name? Who they take last year in the third? Adoga.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to start him on the other side. I don't know how much I would love that, but with Jeudy there at 11, or if that's their plan anyway to run that out there, maybe I can get behind it. I'm enticed by Judy's potential. I really am. But if one of the four big offensive tackles are there, I got to take one of those guys.
That's kind of what I feel too. I'll interject a little bit of knowledge as well. If for you guys that don't know, Todd McShay almost came on to Joe Douglas's scouting team. They were actually roommates back in college. They know each other real well. So when I see him put out a mock draft and he has us taking Jeudy, I'm thinking, does he know something, or is he pulling the fleece over our eyes and he's helping his buddy Joe Douglas not lose one of these tackles and have someone trade in front of the Jets? Green Bean, what do you think about Jerry Jeudy at 11?
Well, I don't know why I don't love him. I think it has. It's not that I don't like him. I just don't love him like a lot of other people. I'm concerned when there are that many pieces to an offense, when one guy is kind of looked at as this incredible prospect, but he has other guys like Ruggs pulling a lot of the attention. Like there can't be the double teams that he's going to see in the NFL. I just get concerned when coming up to the NFL level that he's not going to be what we had hoped. And I think 11 is just too rich for me. Like we said, if we traded back with like Denver or something, maybe, but I don't know. I'm not as sold on Jeudy. I would much rather, take an offensive tackle at 11 and get, if Justin Jefferson slipped, or T. Higgins or Rieger or any of those guys. I think that a tackle with one of them supersedes Jeudy. That's how I see it. But I got another wide receiver if you want to move it.
Let's get David's thoughts on Jeudy, and then we'll throw it back to Green Bean for his thoughts.
I kind of have some mixed thoughts on Jerry Jeudy. I mean, this is a guy who a lot of people consider as a guy who is pretty good with yards after catch, and he can gain separation, especially when you put him man-to-man against corners. And he's got some underrated speed himself. But like Green Bean said, picking him at 11, especially if there could be a better prospect, maybe if CeeDee Lamb shockingly falls to 11, or if one of the tackles falls to 11. Of course, I'm taking a tackle at 11, and if I'm taking a receiver at 11, it would probably be CeeDee Lamb. However, my plan B, if I'm actually taking a receiver, I would possibly even consider trading down for maybe a Jerry Jeudy if he actually falls to pick number 15, or even Justin Jefferson. This is a guy who is a great red zone threat, and he is the pure definition of an all-around receiver. He's big body, his route tree is fantastic. He can do it all. He can outmuscle the defender, which we haven't had a receiver like that since Brandon Marshall. So CeeDee Lamb would be my ideal pick at 11. We were going receiver. Jerry Judy, I would probably trade down, and trading down would be my plan B, point blank, period.
All right, Green Bean, what were your thoughts? What was the receiver you were looking at?
Well, you're right. And it was only because you said any wide receivers stand out. And in the chat room before we got going, we were talking about Chase Claypool. And I think that guy, interestingly, he was actually asked to test as a tight end.
He's a
People
big
were
guy.
really downgrading his potential to be a receiver. And teams wanted to look at him as a tight end. And then he comes out and pulls Megatron numbers and really lit the combine up. I was even watching him during the quarterback drills, and he was making some bad throws look good because he was getting there. He was tracking it incredibly well, and what an impressive prospect he's really looking like. And I wouldn't say that he's pushed himself into the first round, but I think he's going to end up being a second, at worst, third round pick. And he was in the 4 or 5 range before the combine.
Yeah.
So I think he really is interesting. I don't know. I think I'd like to have that guy.
I definitely did not know much about him beforehand, other than maybe seeing his name pull up on like a chart of receivers. Didn't start doing my research into him, and then I saw his numbers pop off, and I was like, all right, let me take a look at some of his highlights. And he's pretty good. He's someone that I would definitely target. Maybe our later pick in the third round, but who knows? Maybe this combine pushes him up far enough to kind of be out of reach of that particular pick. Matt, what did you think about Claypool?
Yeah, I agree. He wasn't someone I knew a whole lot about, honestly. I agree with you. I think I would take him in the third round. I don't know if I'm ready to commit to him in the second round. I've been addicted to those Draft Network mock drafts where you could like pick all the rounds.
Oh my God!
I did one today where Justin Jefferson fell to the Jets pick in the second round. So if to God, if that happens, I'd be all over that. I like his game a lot, like what David was saying earlier, for sure. Or I guess T. Higgins would be another wide receiver who could potentially be there in the second that I'd be for too. He's a big body.
So Justin Jefferson was someone I did a mock draft probably back in October or November, where like the season was over. I was like, all right, let's just start looking at this stuff, and I had us trading Jamal Adams at that point and getting, I think the Cowboys, I was saying they would be in like the early to mid 20s. And I actually had us taking Justin Jefferson. I think Justin Jefferson is a better receiver than Jerry Jeudy. People are going to, lose their mind on me about it, but I really like Justin Jefferson a lot. I mean, especially for the value that you're going to wind up getting him at. When I watched the LSU-Alabama game, it was no comparison. Justin Jefferson was absolutely way better than Jeudy, in my opinion, from that game that I watched. And it's tough to say because the guy across from Jefferson right now, he's not eligible for the draft, but next year he's going to be a first-round pick. And it's kind of like the argument with Jerry Jeudy and Ruggs. You got 2 first-round wide receivers. They're going to be taken in the top 20. I think Ruggs' floor is going to be Philadelphia at 21. I don't think he gets past them. David, was there anyone that kind of jumped out at you as far as wide receiver prospects go?
Michael Pittman. And this is a guy who I actually could compare to Justin Jefferson in a sense, where not only is he a big body guy, he's also a pretty solid red zone threat. His relationship with Sam Darnold is what actually intrigues me. I mean, this is a guy who really actually gained a lot of chemistry with Sam Darnold, and this is a guy who can obviously really work well with Sam Darnold in regards to really just kind of developing that connection properly. They developed it at USC, and if Michael Pittman goes to the third round, I'm putting one of the third round picks on Michael Pittman.
I like that. I think it's a good idea. It's one of those things that we sort of have discussed in the past about having consistency with Sam, and that's the whole rationale for bringing back either Robbie Anderson or maybe a short-term contract with Demaryius Thomas, or, I mean, I guess we're not bringing Enunwa back. He's probably going to be hurt. I think we're going to cut him. But I think, the Emmanuel Sanders or the Alshon Jeffrey, where they kind of know Gase's system, in a sort of weird tangent, you could kind of look at Michael Pittman knowing Sam Darnold from USC. They have a chemistry. It may not be in the offense that Gase runs, but I think there is a chemistry there. Even though it was only 1 year that they played together, I think it's something interesting to look at, and I would definitely take him at the beginning of the third round if he was still sitting there. Green Bean, I'll throw it to you. What do you think about Pittman?
Yeah, it's so tough. So let's say, first of all, I think Jefferson is my number 1 wide receiver in the draft. And I think it's just preferences and things like that. But I love him. But when you look at like Pittman or Claypool or Jefferson or T. Higgins, if those guys are sitting there, that is going to be quite the choice. I mean, that's tough to do. I mean, I was just looking at Claypool, his NFL.com analysis. They said will be a starter in his first two seasons. So when they're saying these things about people, generally speaking, they're right. I mean, they're able to predict if someone's going to be a backup, or most of the time. Michael Pittman is so big. He's 6'4", 232 pounds. He's known for high siding the ball. I mean, this guy he's such an impressive receiver. He's actually fast, great routes. I mean, how do you not love this guy? If he's there in the third, you run to the podium, unless Claypool or T. Higgins. It's like this is the most incredible draft for wide receiver talent I've ever seen, which is another reason I don't want to take one in the first round. When the tackles fall off that cliff, like we were talking about earlier, the receivers, that goes deep into the fourth, but guys that you would normally be getting in the first and second round.
I agree. That's my biggest reason for not wanting to go wide receiver in the first round, just because we have such a glaring need at tackle, and I don't think it's something we're going to tackle in free agency. Matt, I'll throw it to you. What did you think about Pittman?
Yeah, I really like his size. I would go with him too in the third round. I think he would make a lot of sense there. And then you could use that second round pick if that's your plan anyway, and go a different direction. I don't think you're taking a wide receiver in the second round and then again in the third. So maybe there's an edge rusher there that you like, or maybe there's a corner that you like, because that's another position of need. But a big wide receiver who could be a red zone threat for Sam Darnold, yeah, I'm all over that.
So before we slide into the next topic and talk about Joe Douglas, I wanted to talk a little bit about the possibility of an offensive lineman or a wide receiver or some type of prospect that we might really like towards the back end of the first round. There's no secret that Joe Douglas came from the Eagles previously, and then prior to that was from the Ravens. The Ravens are currently sitting in the 28th slot right now. The Jets have the 48th pick overall, so what is that, 16th pick in the second round or whatever. Do you think there's any way, or is there a prospect that you could see falling? Like, are the Jets going to possibly move up for a Biadez or one of these centers in the second round? Matt, I'll throw it to you first. What would you think about possibly trading up with the Ravens if there was a prospect there, and who would that prospect be that you think you would want to jump on?
I don't think the Jets are going to trade back up. I don't think they have enough capital to where they can give up their later picks in order to get back up. You brought up Biadez, which is someone I wanted to talk about, actually. I've seen him slide a little bit in these mocks and see him available a bit more in the second and sometimes even in the early third round. So if Biadez is someone you feel comfortable taking in with the Jets' second round pick where they are, which I would be for that, then yeah, at that point, I would just take him there. There's not really someone that I'd be willing to move up for. Like we've been talking about, the wide receiver class is so deep. I feel comfortable sitting where I am in the second round and taking one there. Or if Tyler Biadasz is there, maybe I take him in the second round and go receiver in the third round. Either way, I just don't think the Jets are really in a position to move back up, and I don't think it really makes sense for them this year.
I do like the idea of if we do pass on a receiver in the second round. I don't want to because I really want to get someone really good, like a first-round talent in that second-round pick. But if we were to go, say, tackle in the first, center in the second, then you look at your third round, I'd probably at that point double dip at wide receiver because I'd be a little more concerned about them panning out in the third round. Second round, I'm not too concerned with. Greenbean, what do you think about the idea of potentially either trading up, or is there someone that at that second-round pick you're kind of eyeing?
Yeah, I agree with Matt. I don't think we have the firepower to do it. But interestingly, you brought up McShay earlier. He was on Simini's new podcast, and Rich was really trying to get some inside scoop about Joe Douglas. And the one thing that McShay did say was that he doesn't see Joe Douglas as being someone who's going to use his capital to jump up for one person. He's more likely to trade back than he is to trade up. And he said, when you look at historically, Ozzie Newsome, he's not known for trading up. He will if need be, but that's not what he does, or did, I should say. Joe Douglas, that's where he really grew up as a GM. And he sees, him being more inclined to trade back or sit where he is than jump up and become desperate for that one guy. Tyler Biadasz, if he's there at 48, I mean, he's dropping for those silly, reasons that guy's dropped. His tape is as good as anybody. He's a little bit raw. He might need half the season to sit, but man, that guy's a great prospect. I love him.
Yeah,
I
look,
take him in a second.
I've liked him a lot, and like Matt and you have said, he has been falling a little bit. The mock I actually put together, I didn't have Biadez falling. I think I had Ruiz, the center from
Michigan.
Michigan. Yeah, I think that's right. I had him going in the first round, which was kind of odd for me because I've been all about Biadez this entire time, and I don't believe Biadez was at the combine. I think he might have missed that as well. So that could be one of those things, just like an Andrew Thomas, that they're probably getting knocked down a little bit just because they're not getting as hyped from not having their numbers out there. David, I'll throw it to you before we move on. What do you think about the idea of possibly trading up maybe with the Ravens or someone at that second round pick in 48? Who are you kind of eyeing there?
I think it's unanimous there. I mean, Matt and Kyle hit it right on the nail. Personally, we don't have enough capital, or nor are we in the position to be trading up. And that's actually something that I've also really noticed about Joe Douglas. Kyle hit it right on the nail. Is that there's a lot of flexible options for Joe Douglas to choose from, especially when it comes to the wide receivers. And you could stay put and still possibly take an intriguing prospect rather than just have your mindset focused onto that one specific guy, and you give up capital and you take him. That's kind of a huge risk when it comes to really just drafting, because like unless this is like a legitimate game-breaking talent, then there's no reason to trade up for that specific guy. I mean, you want to keep, if anything, I'm trading back and I'm stocking up on more picks. So I'm either staying put or I'm trading back and I'm getting more picks. And I'm just going to work there, because you're going to have to hope to God that some of these holes that we fill are going to be hits on some of these late round picks. So I'm staying put right where I am, especially with the flexibility that you could have to deal with anyway.
I like it. I like it. I'll just kind of put it out there. Does anyone else have any offensive linemen or wide receivers before we jump on to the next topic? Nope. All right,
Nope.
cool. Guys, if you've not tuned in, down below, there's a link to the Jets, I have the Jets Discord link down below, but I have a mock draft contest we're going to give away for first place, second place, third place. First place is going to get $25. Second place is $15. I think third is fifth place or something like that is what I put down. So if you guys want to join it, it's totally free. Pretty easy to do. Link in the description down below. Guys, we have 28 likes on this video right now. We have about 150 people in this chat. If we get over 100 likes on the next 5 live streams, or I think we're at maybe the next 3, I get to put our buddy Mario from #sports through a table. So please hit the like button, for the love of God. I want to put this man through a table. He deserves it. All right, guys, let's move on to the interview from Joe Douglas. The interview happened just before we got to see all the metrics and everything like that. Some of the interview that was brought up was the Jamal Adams lifetime Jet conversation. David, I'll throw it to you. What did you think about Joe Douglas's comments about Jamal Adams?
I think he's just playing the media game, and I think he played the media game with the entire conference. In regards to Jamal, I mean, people were saying the same thing about Darrelle Revis, saying, "Oh, we love Darrelle Revis, we want to make him a Jet for life." But however, I think in this case, because Jamal Adams is such a huge cornerstone to this team, especially on defense, because we have not had an All-Pro player probably since Darrelle Revis on defense. I can't really think of anybody else. If Joe Douglas does actually commit to actually signing him long term, which I think he will, then by all means, I definitely think that the negotiations between him and Jamal might be longer than we think. But I think he's really just saying the whole lifetime thing just to play the media game, because when it comes to the New York media, you're gonna really have to play that game hard.
Yeah, you got to be careful. Any little tiny quote can be misconstrued and sent all over the internet for people to make memes about and poke fun at you. Greenbean, what did you think about the lifetime Jet comment from Joe Douglas?
Well, the comment was the plan is for Jamal to be a Jet for life. So what does that mean? That could mean a whole bunch of different things. It could mean that we're not signing him this year. I'm engaging the 5th-year option. I plan to franchise him for 2 more years before I sign. It could mean anything. I think David hit it pretty well there. I mean, Joe Douglas seems like he's at least capable of playing the media game. He's not really causing too much stir. He's just saying the things. Everybody's great. Everybody's happy. I love even Brian Winters. You know,
Well,
so
we'll get to the Bry Winters things. You hold
I
down.
know, but but I think. Look, I want Jamal Adams to be a Jet for life, so I like the comment. But I think the way he said it is interesting. The plan is for Jamal to be a Jet for life. We already have him under contract for 2 more years without even batting an eyelash. So I don't think it says too much more than that.
Matt, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, what else is he going to say? He's not going to say that he doesn't want him on the team. I think that I agree with you guys that it's just playing to the media and stuff like that. I do think that Joe Douglas wants to keep him around, though. I think he values what Jamal Adams brings to this team. I think he realizes that he's their best player on the defensive side of the ball and that he's arguably their biggest recruiting tool. I think eventually a contract extension gets done this offseason. I think there might be a holdout involved and it might get a little bit dicey, but I think they come to terms on a contract and we don't have to worry about him being a Jet for life for another 5 years or so.
That's kind of what I'm hoping as well. And I do think he was playing the media game because, like Matt said, what are you going to say? You're not going to say, "Oh, sorry, I don't like him," because then his trade value goes right through the bottom of the toilet. If you say, "Hey, I want him to be a Jet for life," maybe Jerry Jones gets his nipples in a twist, and all of a sudden he's offering up 2 first-round picks and a lineman and all this other stuff, and he's throwing everything at us. I think he said the right things. I think that's really what it was. I want to see Jamal a Jet for life. Bought the guys, jersey last year. I can't just keep buying jerseys that just screw me. Year in and year out, we get rid of these guys. I had Sheldon Richardson, gone. Bought Jonathan Vilma, gone. Every single year it happens to me. I have Darnold, and I'm hoping, for the love of God, he's our franchise quarterback, and he just hangs around. Because otherwise, I'm not buying any more current jerseys. I'm just going to go retired players. All right, guys. Let's get back into some more of what Douglas said. Another thing he brought up was what Greenbean was saying. He was talking about Brian Winters being the only returning starter for the Jets, the only returning day one starter for the New York Jets still under contract. I don't know if that's a really glowing endorsement. I mean, yes, he sort of pointed out that Winters is very, strong and tough and plays through injury and things like that. But it's not. I don't think you're committing to him. I think he's got a $7 million cap hit, $7.5 million cap hit. I think he's probably gone. Matt, I'll kick it to you first. What do you think about the whole Brian Winters comment from Douglas?
Same thing, like I said before. What is he supposed to say? Brian Winters is no longer someone you can rely on, and you cut him. Everyone knows that he's going to cut him, but maybe if he talks him up, someone will sign him in free agency. I don't know what he was doing. I just don't think he wanted to be a bad guy and throw his player under the bus, but I fully expect him to be cut still.
Greenbean, what do you think about the comment?
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think he's playing the game. He's being respectful. He's not pulling a Gase and throwing players under the bus when he's asked. Interestingly, though, I wonder if the Jets, if they cut him and he was willing to re-sign for like 2.4 as a backup, would they consider it? I think that might be interesting. But he's got $7 million is way too much for a guy who doesn't play or play well.
That's kind of what I'm thinking too. haven't really thought about bringing him back on like a backup contract, but the Jets are going to need some kind of depth anyway, so it's really probably not a terrible decision. David, what did you think about the Winters comments?
Well, I was a little bit confused at first until then I did realize it was just a media game. But honestly, I think he's gone anyway. I mean, he's getting up there a little bit in age, and he's not a good source of continuity because one thing that really bothered me about Brian Winters is that he's trying to be Iron Man. He's played through several injuries, which completely decreases production. I mean, he played through, I think, an abdomen injury this year. He played through a shoulder injury 1 year throughout an entire season. It just bothers me how he tries to be Iron Man and play through certain injuries. And when you're an offensive lineman, it's not exactly ideal. So he's not a good source of continuity for Sam. He's also a penalty machine as well. I think he's gone.
Yeah, look, I think we're probably in agreement. Winters is probably not coming back. I want to get into some comments that he made about Robbie Anderson. I'm interested to see how this plays out because I think that if you don't know, he's saying that they're talking to Robbie's agent and they're going to try and negotiate a little bit. Now, one of the things that sort of came out of this whole story was that the people are kind of thinking that since his wide receiver class is so deep, that Robbie may not get the $13 to $15 million a year that he's, sort of expected to get or that we've expected him to get. Green Bean, I'll throw it to you first. Do you think this wide receiver class is going to push Robbie's contract demands down? And will the Jets have a shot at re-signing him, or do you think we just kind of move on anyway?
Well, it's an interesting question because when, a month or two ago, I was having that conversation that this is a bad year for to be a free agent wide receiver because the draft is so incredibly stocked with what looks like legitimate wide receiver talent. That said, it's also a thin wide receiver class, so there's not as many guys to choose from as far as free agents. I mean, not class, the group of free agents. So I think it can go both ways, but I actually do think that teams are going to be less willing to pay something like 13 to 15 million than they would be if the draft wasn't so stocked. I would say that and it could be wishful thinking, 10 to 12, which goes back to what we were talking about a few months ago when it was more realistic. I think it may actually do that, man. It might push them down money-wise.
David, what do you think about the contract?
Like that kind of stunned me a little bit. I think it gave me a little hope that the Jets could have a better shot at bringing Robbie Anderson back for a more reasonable price. And because of how thick this wide receiver draft class is, Kyle also mentioned it, the free agent wide receiver draft class is relatively.
Sorry, I'm making faces over here.
Oh my god, the free agent wide receiver draft class. I mean, why am I saying draft class? The free agent receiver class is pretty thin as well. So I think it could also come down to whether or not Amari Cooper gets re-signed. AJ Green already got franchise tagged, and Robbie Anderson could be the number one free agent wide receiver on the market. So the market could go a little down for Robbie Anderson. I think it could decrease. Maybe the price becomes more reasonable, but I could still see a somewhat of a competitive market for him. But I think it definitely gives more hope for the Jets to possibly bring him back.
Matt, what do you think about Robbie's contract demands possibly going down because of the draft class?
I mean, it makes sense when you look at how talented the draft class is. I mean, we talked about it at length just a few minutes ago, how many guys there in the second and third round that we'd be comfortable taking. I think Robbie signs somewhere around the $12 million mark. I don't think he gets up to 13. He's good enough to be over 10. It's not going to be anything less than $10 million. Is he the perfect wide receiver? No, but he does have a unique skill set. His route tree has developed. The wide receiver free agent class thinks he would be one of the better receivers on the market, if not the best receiver on the market. I think it's going to take $12 million to bring him back if the Jets want to re-sign him.
Yeah, that's something I've kind of said for a while. The 5-year or 4-year, $11 million a year was the Tyrell Williams contract. Maybe you get a little bit more. Maybe he gets at 12. I would be comfortable going 12 for Robbie. It sounds like the Jets were at, I think it was $10 million last we kind of heard. Yeah, look, Green Bean, what was the comment Douglas made about speed?
Speed creates pressure, and pressure bursts pipes.
So do you think that has more to do with his desire to possibly want to keep Robbie, or do you think that's directly related to the Ruggs 40 time and whatnot?
You know what I think? I think it's just an overall. I don't think he's actually talking about one person. I mean, it could apply to Robbie Anderson. I would say it applies more to Robbie than it does Ruggs, in my opinion. I don't think Ruggs is necessarily on their radar like people are trying to make out. Mm-hmm. But I think it's probably about the team in general. Fast, flying to the ball, cornerbacks, edge rushers, all those kinds of things. I think that's what he's talking about, having a fast, mean team as opposed to a comment toward one player.
What'd you think about that, David?
I'm 100% on board with it. I mean, I think you've got to look at attributes in each player as a whole. I mean, you can't go on just one person because there could be a player with another specific attribute that could be intriguing as well. So I think Kyle hit it right on the nail.
Wow, lost my train of thought. Sorry, Matt. What did you think about the comment? Any more comments on Robbie Anderson or anything like that?
Well, I mean, I think for Douglas, I think he's a smart guy. I think he understands that the game is going more towards speed, and I think he was just saying that this roster needs more speed. Yes, Robbie would fit that bill, and it would make sense to bring him back, but I was just thinking, I took it as in general he was saying that speed is important. Right.
I'm trying to think, what other comments were made at that press conference? Am I missing anything right now?
Le'Veon
Yeah,
Bell.
Oh,
that
Le'Veon Bell. That's
didn't
right.
initiate any trade talks.
That's right. There have not been any trade talks with Le'Veon Bell. I think since the
As it
trade
shouldn't be.
deadline is what they were saying. Because I, if I remember correctly, Douglas had had conversations with Bell prior to engaging in some trade talks to see what they could fish for, or at least they were keeping him in the loop. Not like the Jamal Adams thing, but since that point, they haven't had trade discussions with Le'Veon Bell, and I think it probably makes sense because he's due like 15 or 16 million dollars this year, and it's pretty ugly contract to try and take on. The Jets would save 9.5 million dollars. So realistically, if the Jets wanted to eat, $8.5 million, you still save some money, and then maybe you get a draft pick in return. But what did you think, David, about Le'Veon Bell staying a Jet for the 2020 season?
I mean, as it should be, especially since after Le'Veon Bell, you don't have another running back under contract. I mean, after him, I mean, it's pretty much just practice squad guys like Josh Adams, I mean, Trent Cannon. And also, everyone was so excited about bringing in Le'Veon Bell. And then little did we know, our offensive line is one of the worst in football, and the coach is a clown. So him staying as a Jet, especially if we get the offensive line tools that we need, I think it could definitely really bolster the run game as it should, and hopefully Adam Gase can get his head out of his ass and actually finally use him the correct way, because we all know how dynamic of a player he is. I mean, he had Hall of Fame numbers before he came here. We were all excited. Most of us were excited about the signing. I definitely was. Ryan, you 1,000% were.
I lost my damn mind when that happened.
Fine, dude. Like, you were losing it.
Dude, I was so happy. I'm still on board the Le'Veon. Dude, I'm still on board the Le'Veon Bell train. I think you need the offensive line. We need the offensive line. We got to protect Sam. Sam had mono. Anyone who's had mono in the chat, let us know, because when you have mono,
What's mono like?
dude, you're not good. Your health is not good after a month. It's not good after 2 months. It's probably just starting to get better after 3 months. And Sam was playing at a professional level in the NFL with guys that were 100% healthy, or at least not dragged down by mono. I think that really shouldn't be understated in the whole Le'Veon Bell thing. Obviously, the offensive line was bad. We were the third offensive line in the last 100 years to have 50-plus sacks and less than 3.5 yards a carry. So it is abysmal how bad this offensive line is. Yeah. Matt, I'll throw it to you. What did you think?
Yeah, they shouldn't trade Le'Veon Bell. It makes no sense because you're not going to get anything of value back. I mean, we saw today what A.J. Boye got in trade, which is a 4th-round pick. When you look at cap hits that are around that level and look at production, if Boye is getting a 4th, then Le'Veon Bell is probably going to be a 5th or a 6th-round pick. Like, I would rather hold on to Le'Veon Bell. If you're telling me the return on him is going to be a 5th or a 6th-round pick, it would make no sense to move on from him. Get an offensive line in here and use Bell to the right potential. That's it.
What'd you think, Green Bean, about Bell coming back?
Yeah, well, I think the interesting part of that comment was he literally said, we have not initiated any trade talks for Le'Veon Bell. So that doesn't mean that people aren't sniffing around. And there was that interesting little, there was an opening of that subject about other teams that have guys' contracts that they wanted to get rid of. Maybe they could do something like that. There was
Sammy Watkins was an interesting one because Watkins is under contract. He's a $21 million cap hit. If you flip-flop them, maybe it's, Jets need a receiver, Chiefs could use a running back, maybe it's a wash more so. I don't know.
Yeah, that said, I really would like to see Le'Veon Bell with an offensive line for the damn Jets. Like, we know what he was. Like I've shared with you before, I wasn't on the train to sign him in the first place, but he's a Jet. I wanted, seeing him come here and work with the worst offensive line in history and then trade him, what is that? It bothers me. I'd rather see us bolster the line and put a Pro Bowl, all-pro running back behind it and see what he can actually do.
I like it. Any more comments on the Douglas interview before we slide over into the Jets combine rumors? Nothing? All right. Guys, down below, there is a like button. I need you to hit it. We got 136 people in here right now, and if we get to 100 likes, I get to put Mario from #sports through a table. So make sure you hit the like button. And if you want to join our mock draft contest, down below there's a link for that. It's pretty idiot proof. You don't even have to know that much about mock drafts. They have power rankings that you just click the player and the team. It's pretty cool. But if you guys want to join that, it's free. We're going to give away prizes, first place, second place, third place. Should be pretty fun. And now we move on to a very fun topic, and I think it's something, I don't know if you guys want to do it. I was thinking about opening the phone lines later on after this and getting some comment questions, because I think people are going to want to talk about some of these Jet rumors. But we're talking Jets combine rumors that have come out. One of the things we were hearing was the edge rusher conversation with from Connor Hughes, that Dante Fowler could be on the Jets' radar. That is something that we actually heard echoed by Jamal Adams. Jamal Adams was on, was it NFL Network on Sunday, I think, and he said he wants some dogs. He wants some edge rushers. He wants some big guys. He named Jadeveon Clowney, Yannick Ngakoue, and Dante Fowler. Now, I don't particularly want Clowney. I think he's going to be a ton of money. He is not healthy all the time. He causes a ton of penalties. When I did my Fuck, Marry, Kill series, he had 50 penalties. The next closest guy had 24. So it was like night and day different on that. With Yannick Ngakoue, obviously he's franchised. Jets would have to give up a pick for him. I could probably get talked into trading the second round pick for Ngakoue. I mean, he's so good. I really do think he's going to be phenomenal. I don't think the Jets are going to be in that kind of market, because you're going to have to pay him too on top of trading a pick, and I don't think the Jets are necessarily in that wheelhouse. But Green Bean, I'll throw it to you first. What do you think about the potential of Dante Fowler from the Rams coming over to the Jets?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not necessarily, one to lobby for it. I think he's a good football player. He's never going to be, I don't think he's going to be a 16 to 20 sack guy, but he would be better than any pass rusher we've had in a long time. If we get him on, one of those medium range type contracts, yeah, I say why not, but I don't know how accurate it necessarily is. We were attached to quite a few people, so he was just kind of thrown in, but I think it'd be nice to get him.
What do you think about him, Matt? What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I think he's a nice player. I wouldn't break the bank for him. I would prefer him over Clowney, just because Clowney's going to cost you a ton of money, and I think he's extremely overrated. But for Fowler, I think he is someone who would, like Green Bean said, probably the best edge rusher the Jets have had since John Abraham, unless you want to count 1 year of Jason Taylor at like 45 years old. I think that he would be worthwhile to take a long look at and potentially bring in, depending on what you can get him in for.
David, what do you think about Dante Fowler?
I've kind of had mixed thoughts with it, because considering that you look at the market for the pass rusher, it's pretty high. I mean, you're going to end up paying out your nose for a pass rusher in free agency. And Dante Fowler, in terms of the contract of what you would give him, I wouldn't be opposed to it, because this is a guy that you're not exactly breaking the bank for. But at the same exact time, and this is kind of a similar reason why I'm not trading for Yannick Ngakoue. I'm actually staying off of that, because we're not one. I'm sorry, but I get the talent of Ngakoue. I get the talent.
The name's fantastic. I think your pronunciation was on point for that one. Ngakoue or whatever. It's one of the most impossible names to say in the NFL.
Well, my bad. But the thing with that is, the reason why I'm staying off of that, and the reason why I'm having mixed thoughts about Dante Fowler, is because we're not one pass rusher away. And I know that's a big need, but we all can agree that most of this offseason, free agency and the draft, should be primarily focused on the offense. Like, pass rusher, yes, it's a big need, and we should have addressed it last year. But we allocated so much into defense over the years, and then the offense just being as bottom feeding as it's been. I'm allocating all my resources, if not most of it, into the offense, especially offensive line. So that's why I'm kind of mixed on Dante Fowler. Like, I get the contract, I get the talent, but my focus is on the offense first.
I think the concern with Fowler, from what I've sort of read and seen, is he had a stacked Jacksonville defense playing in Jacksonville, and then he went to the Rams and it's stacked there. He's playing next to Aaron Donald. He really only had a good season last year. That was his first real good season. I think he's 25 or 26, so he's still pretty young. I agree with Matt. I think the contract is probably going to be the biggest thing for me. I don't know what you get him for. I mean, do you want to go higher than $13 million, $14 million for him? I mean, you're getting Clowney's probably going to be somewhere around 20 million, 22 million. That would be my guess. The franchise tag's 19, so Clowney's going to get, I think, the highest pass rusher contract. So does that drive Fowler's contract up a lot too? I've heard rumors that Bud Dupree could be getting franchised. Matthew Judon from the Ravens could be getting franchised. So there may not be many edge rushers or as many edge rushers hitting free agency as maybe we had originally thought. Matt, what do you think about that?
I could definitely see it going up at that point, just because I think you said the other with guys like Clowney's money going up, then I could see everyone else's value going up a little bit. That would scare me off. I think I would, if prices get up that high, I think I would just say, all right, I'm good with what the Jets have on defense as is for right now, and just focus on the offense.
Yeah, I think so too. Green Bean, what do you think about the contract? Is there a number that you would not go over?
Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, I'm making it up, but I feel like 10 is about it. It's like I completely agree with what Matt just said. I think we need some pieces and stuff like cornerback and and whoever. But I would love to see the majority of our resources go into really fixing the offense, and then next year really devote more to the defense. I would like to see that. Fowler, like I said, I'd like to have him. I think maybe 10. I don't know where I'm getting that number though, but that's just how I feel.
So just so you guys know, Fowler got 1 year, $12 million from the Rams. So that you could see that as maybe, hey, this is your prove it deal. You're going to get a little bit more money on a 1 year contract, but we're not committing to you long term. So maybe a longer term deal does put him in that $10 million range, or because he played well last year, it could escalate, higher than that 12 million. David, is there a number that you see the Jets, or a number that you would feel uncomfortable with the Jets kind of looking at?
I would not go past 12 million. I mean, like I said, this isn't exactly a game-breaking pass rusher, but the talent is definitely there. And I would actually really give him a 1 year prove-it deal before I really would commit to him long-term, because this is a guy who, Ryan, like you said, he's played in pretty stellar defenses around stellar players. He's played around guys like Aaron Donald, and then he played in a really stacked Jacksonville Jaguars defense. And then you have him come here and you give him the expectation of being that dynamic pass rusher. It's going to be kind of a risky thing a little bit, like a low risk high reward kind of thing. So I would bring him in on a 1 year prove it deal before I would commit to giving him a longer term deal. But like I said, I'm just allocating most of my resources into the offense.
So let's talk about the offense a little bit more. We'll jump back to defense in a minute, but one of the other rumors that came out from the Combine was that the Jets are going to really try to attack the guard position, and Connor Hughes named both Joe Thuney and Graham Glasgow as two guards that the Jets could potentially be going after. Guys, what do you think about that? Matt, I'll throw it to you first.
I think this froze up here.
Uh-oh, that's okay. Green Bean, I'll throw it to you first.
All right.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, originally, I'm really high on Thuney, but the truth is as the days creep past, I don't think Thuney's coming here. Not only because of money, because I just think, coming from the Patriots to the Jets, he would look at that as a major downgrade. I don't know if Joe Douglas has enough personality to overcome that mound of dog shit, that he's going to have to, overcome to get Thuney to entertain coming to the Jets. So I think Glasgow is a fine backup plan for Thuney. I think he's underrated. I think he's versatile. He's mean. He's athletic. And I think he would be a fantastic pickup for us. Thuney, I mean, I'd love to have him. He's fantastic. I'm getting less and less into the idea of being realistic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's right. Matt, let's kick it to you as far as the Thuney Glasgow kind of rumors go. What are your thoughts on that? David, I'll throw it to you first or next. I think Matt's having a little technical difficulties over there.
Well, first off, guys, we got about 130 people in this stream. Hit that like button for Jet Talk 24/7. This panel's awesome. But now going into the guards. The guards are the one position I'm attacking in free agency, and I do love Joe Thuney, but like Kyle said, I think Joe Thuney's going to want to go to a legitimate winning organization. I think he's the kind of guy that would take less money to go to a team like the Chiefs or the Texans or even the Bills because it's kind of hard to imagine Joe Douglas having enough assets to market the product to a guard like Joe Thuney because let's face it, we've kind of made this case 1,000 times. You're gonna have to overpay for guys to come here because we're not a winning organization, and I think giving guys a huge contract would probably offset that. So Thuney's my number one option. I would go ballistic if they get Joe Thuney, but I love Graham Glasgow too. I definitely think that you could get him on a cheaper deal. I definitely think that there's a more realistic chance that the Jets get this guy, especially since you kill two birds with one stone with this guy. He can play center as well. And I could also look, you know what? Screw it. I'll also look at Brandon Sheriff. I know the injury.
He's getting franchised. What the hell are you talking about?
No.
Sorry. Getting me heated over there. All right, Matt, let's try you again.
I think I'm here. So I would really like Joe Thuney. He is my definite number one choice on the offensive line. You are going to have to overpay to get him here. Glasgow, I think, is a fine option to bring in. He's a little bit lesser. I mean, he's not going to cost you as much as a Joe Thuney is going to cost you, but I think that he would be a fine option to plug in at guard and would be a significant upgrade over what the Jets have been running now.
Yeah, look, I think we need offensive line, and I think it's something that Matt touched on a little bit on one of our earlier streams that he didn't think we'd go with the tackle in free agency and we'd go more towards the guard. I think we've all sort of discussed that. It's a little bit cheaper. It's a little bit, maybe easier to get a guard than one of the tackles. Maybe there's less people that are trying to go after him. I'm definitely on board the Glasgow train if we can't get Thuney. Thuney's going to be option number one, I think. I would make him the highest paid guard. I wouldn't have a problem with it. Try to get him in here, overpay a little bit to protect your star quarterback. Douglas knows we have to protect him. You can't win games if your quarterback's on his back. Now, let's move on to another, I guess we'll talk about the defensive side of the ball again. James Bradbury is a corner that was brought up as a potential target for the New York Jets. This is not something I particularly saw or think is going to happen just because he's a free agent this year. Ron Rivera was the Carolina Panthers head coach. He's now in Washington. Washington cut Josh Norman. They're going to need a cornerback. It just sort of seems like it fits with Bradbury going there. I could be wrong. I don't really know. Greenbean, I'll throw it to you first. What do you think about the potential of the Bradbury rumors?
Well, I'm not sure if everyone remembers, but in my video on the first day of the offseason, I made a priority list of free agents. James Bradbury was on that list. And I think that he is one of the higher priorities for the Jets. He's going to shake free from Carolina, and the Jets are going to be the team to get him. And I think it's a great idea. I don't think he's going to be as expensive as people think he is. And I think that he's going to be a Jet, and I absolutely love it. He plays strong press. He's a big body guy. He's strong, fast. I love him, and I think he's coming. Brace yourselves.
Matt, what do you think about Bradbury?
I like him a lot. I'd want to bring him here. I don't want to pay him $15 million a year, but if you get him in the $10 to $12 million range, I think that's pretty good value, and I think he would be a really big piece on this defensive side of the ball. I mean, I really like Bless Austin, what he did for the Jets last year. I just don't feel comfortable with him as the number one corner because, A, he was a sixth-round pick who played 8 games, and B, he's played like 13 games in 3 years. Like he barely can stay on the field. So I definitely want some veteran depth who is, a number one corner, which is exactly what Bradbury is.
I like it. What do you think, David? What do you think about Bradbury?
I definitely think he's a prospect to negotiate with. I mean, hopefully you wouldn't have to overpay for him, and he has decent number one corner experience, and I think you bring him in here, he's better than he's better than pretty much every single corner we have on the roster. So it'd be a solid defensive piece to have, at least to kind of start revamping your secondary, and then as the rebuild kind of goes on, maybe you could finally bring in that real number one corner and have him play alongside Bradbury, to where you could have that. You could maybe bring back Brian Poole, hopefully on a reasonable deal. Hopefully he won't break the bank for him. And the secondary could finally go back to its normal roots. So this is a guy that I would negotiate with, and you could probably get a decent you could probably get a decent contract for him.
Yeah, I think, look, he's going to try and break bank, kind of like Byron Jones is going to do. They're going to try and go for that $15-16 million a year. Like Matt said, I'm not taking Bradbury for that kind of deal. I would prefer him to, you know what? I would rather take a corner in the third round to pair with some of these guys and go a little bit cheaper in the free agent market in terms of corner. Ronald Darby is someone that I've brought up a few times. He's from the Eagles. He's had a bad season last year, was not very good, but that Eagles secondary was terrible. Maybe sliding him in with Jamal Adams, Marcus May, and some of our secondary pieces with Greg Williams, maybe that creates a little more upside for him. I think you could get him really cheap. Another player I like is Bradley Roby. I don't know if he's going to hit free agency or not. I like him. I think that's someone I would like to target. Again, not sure what that price is probably going to be on him. Matt, is there a corner that you're particularly looking at, maybe outside of Bradbury?
At that point, not really. There's not someone else that really sticks out to me that I'd want on a value deal. I think at that point, if you miss out on like a Bradbury, I don't want to pay the money for like a Byron Jones. Ronald Darby scares me. He's coming off a bad year, and he's also really injury prone. And outside of that, his name is escaping me, but the guy, was it Harris from the Broncos?
Oh, yeah, Clark. Harris Jr.
Right. He's up there. He's up there in age too. He's more of a slot guy. So I don't really see much of a fit for the Jets outside of Bradbury. So I'm not really looking at too many other corners besides that.
Green Bean, you think there's anyone that you'd possibly want to look at outside of Bradbury?
Well, let me say that I really like your reasoning, Ryan, for why Bradbury would end up in Washington. But, that's so sound to me. It makes a lot of sense, especially with them cutting Josh Norman. But I think what's going to surprise everybody is that Washington's going to end up with Okudah. And that's why, if you want to find out, I'll get more into that on another video. But I make sense. But so that's going to happen.
I'm not against it. My mock draft is kind of similar to that. I understand where you're coming from.
There's a way to do it. I think that Rivera is, it's very realistic that he might want Bradbury, but I don't think it's going to happen, and that's how he ends up with the Jets. Like Matt said, I'm not all that excited about too many of the cornerbacks in free agency. I do think we can expect to fill out the back end of the cornerback group in free agency, but I'd rather see some kids come in and just play hard and win some third, fourth, fifth jobs and things like that. That's after signing Poole, for God's sakes. We got to get this guy.
Yeah, we got to keep Poole. I'm 100% on board with that. David, what do you think about the cornerback market? Is there anyone outside of Bradbury that you're kind of keeping your eye on?
Not exactly. I mean, I'm not really fond of overpaying for a 28-year-old corner, Byron Jones. And that's pretty much the best corner prospect out there. You want my honest opinion? I'm drafting a corner with one of the third-round picks. I think you look at the secondary. While it is unproven, it's got a lot of young talent with some promise. Arthur Millette, bless Austin. They definitely made their marks at the end of the year. So you actually do bring in a Bradbury, and you actually bring in a set of third-round pick, and you have a relatively younger secondary. That's something I'd move forward with.
Very cool, very cool. Guys, I think that's going to be it for us tonight. If anyone's got any more comments to kind of throw out there, but I think that's going to be it. Guys, we'll be back here next week, same time, 9 o'clock. I love you guys. Matt, I'll throw it to you real quick. Any last words?
Excited to talk about draft stuff. Love the combine, love draft season. It's been a ton of fun. Can't wait till next week.
Green Bean, any last words?
I feel the same way. I actually wait to get through the regular season so we can actually get to draft season. This is what I really like. With games.
I love it. I love it. David, any last words?
Draft season is my favorite. Free agency is my favorite. But got some awesome content on the way. Make sure you stay tuned. I got a call-in show coming up soon. So sub up all these guys. Sub up myself as well. These guys do an awesome job, and this panel's just amazing.
Guys, it has been awesome. If you want to do the mock draft contest, we're doing first, second, third. Last plug for that, it's down in the description down below. We got 82 likes. Before you guys dip out, hit that like button if you want to see me put Mario from #sports through a table. We need that to happen. Guys, I love you. We'll be back here next week. Peace.